Joining me now is William Lee, Chief Economist at Global Economic Advisors. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Let me ask you a very basic question. What is the value of a trade agreement with the U.S. when President Trump reaches trade agreements and then changes the term within weeks or months, as he's doing now with Europe? There was a trade agreement, or at least a framework for one, and now he is slapping 10 or 25% tariffs on Europe if he doesn't get what he wants in Greenland.
Well, Jim, I think the basic principle about a trade agreement is really what's important. When people are planning as to what they're going to do when they have a trade agreement, it's what it is that the trade agreement's about. In the United States, when Trump makes a trade agreement, he's telling everybody, if you invest in the United States, you get low tariffs. If you don't invest in the United States and want to compete and import your stuff into our country, you're going to have a tariff barrier to go through because we want to protect those who invested in the United States, both domestic and foreign investors, from unfair competition. That's the principle, and I think he's been pretty clear and steady about maintaining that principle. Some of the details may change only because either the one or two of their terms were just never met, and the two players didn't really fulfill their obligations. Like, for example, China hasn't really come forth with guarantees of our supply of rare earths. But all in all, these agreements are pretty clear.
But that is not the principle here, because President Trump is threatening and imposing economic tariffs because he wants to make a territorial acquisition. That's an entirely new demand.
Well, I think this is part of the political negotiation that is essentially giving Greenlanders the choice of wanting to be part of the United States orbit or the European one. And he's saying to I think the world, lay off, let these guys choose freely, because we are offering them economic development. We're offering them a kind of a compact of association that we offer, say, the Marshall Islands and in some of our other territories where they can freely come to the United States without visa to work and to live, and give them a choice. And right now, they're free to go to Denmark, but would you rather go to Denmark where the growth rate and job opportunities are half of what they are in the United States? And that, I think that's the choice that President Trump is trying to present. And I think the Danes are saying, no. Well, it's our stuff, lay off. And don't even bother. It's very reminiscent of the colonial attitude that the Europeans have had for hundreds of years.
But he's not offering a choice. He's saying, we want it. Easy way or the hard way. And by the way, the people of Greenland have already made a choice. The polls show where they want to go, and they've elected leaders, both Greenland and Danish leaders, who are flat out rejecting this because they see it as a shakedown.
Well, when my representative from Denmark tells me that I'm not interested, that's one thing, right? When there's a true poll, an election that takes place among the residents there, that's something else. But that's something for the negotiations, right? I don't want to preempt, what it is the president's going to offer. But these are the kind of terms that I think they've been talking about, and I think the Europeans have been very recalcitrant to let go because I think they realize they can't really defend Greenland the way a sovereign's supposed to against a lot of the Chinese and Russian incursions that have already taken place. I mean, remember, the Chinese have got a strategic interest in the Greenland because they want a northern Arctic extension to the Belt and Road Initiative, right? They want to be able to come in there and build a lot of stuff and make them dependent upon China as a supplier. By the way, Denmark is already dependent on China as a supplier to a lot of the green initiatives. A lot of the solar and wind turbines that they have are manufactured in China. So Denmark has always said, if the U.S. wants us to do something, they can just ask. But now if we ask, can we put more bases there, are the Chinese going to let them?
Well, it's not ask. I mean, it's a subject of a 75-year-old treaty that already exists that allows the U.S. to base troops there, which Denmark has quite publicly offered repeatedly. William Lee, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks, Matt.